class is about consciousness before the contraction. And this is a very important class because when your consciousness comes and when you elevate into that space of that realization, there is a awakening that many people misunderstand, because when the consciousness expands, what happens is your perceptions start getting sharpened, your fog lifts, you begin to see the mechanism behind things, you see how the media persuade things, you see how identities are performing, and you see the wound behind people's success or confidence, and you see family patterns beneath the conversation. And this first feels like clarity, but then it can feel like a distance, because people who realize also have to understand it's not about distancing from these places. And if the awareness is not held gently, if it's not held gently, it totally goes into a contraction. And that contraction is not good for the flow. Because feel that word contraction. Contraction is what's happening when expanded seeing collapses into the judgment, superiority, or subtle withdrawal. So sometimes these things can happen to the most highest spiritual seekers, because when you start seeking and seeking and seeking, and when you see that the truth, you're not distancing from what is not true. You have a deeper compassion to see beyond that, so that your reactions are less towards the world, towards organizations, towards certain parts of the media, because you could see you're no longer hypnotized by the movie, but you're also no longer like, you're still enjoying it. You're enjoying it because you allow it to gently flow into that space. So this is very, very important, because this whole thing has speed up a lot since all these things are happening. So what I'm asking is, today's practice, just see that you're not hypnotized by things, but neither you're not dancing either. So this is a fragile middle stage when the realization comes into that consciousness before contraction is different, because it sees, but it's not hardening. It recognizes the mass, but it also has that tenderness underneath. So you're not reacting, or you're not controlling yourself to isolate from these patterns. You notice the propaganda, but you understand fear drives much of it. So you don't give that energy into the fear, or because of this, I have to do this, because of this, I have to do that. So what happens is it watches someone performs, but it feels a compassion for the part of them that longs to belong, because that person is also trying to come into the place of belonging and needed to be recognized. So take a deep breath here. I will move the camera towards Darren, and notice your body. Awareness without the body becomes cold. Awareness inside the body becomes wise. So now shoulders roll back, just a gentle elongation, lifting up the spine and the space of the rib cage. And this consciousness before contraction feels like spacious participation. So you're not naive, but also you're not cynical. Now very gently, arms raised onto the ground, interlacing the fingers, palms facing up, shoulders relaxed, chest open, lift up the space of the heart, engage that pelvic floor, come into that space very gently. Now take a deep breath in and holding onto the opposite elbows, which is the left elbow, and stretch the body towards the right. Just opening up that space of the rib cage. Allow the witnessing part to become more lucid. Lucidity does not destroy the dance. It removes the compulsion. Now very gently holding onto the right elbow and stretching towards the left. Back to the center. Take a deep breath in. Palms onto the namaskar position. Now you can enjoy the movie of life because you're not seeking validation from it. Have you seen this? This is happening. You already, when you watch a movie, you take a side. So you can love the person because you're not demanding they be unmasked. You can sit at the family table without needing to fix the system. Got it? Now take a deep breath in. Twist the spine to the right side, stomach very gently pulling it. Am I seeing or I am tightening? On a body and a breath and a movement. Am I seeing or I'm tightening? Now this is a pair. Some people who have frustration carried in their space of the jaw because they want to be polite. Back into the center. Now take a deep breath in, change the leg formation. Now take a deep breath in, elongate the spine, lift up the space of the kidneys, twisting the spine to the left side on the out breath. The tightening is not your enemy here. Frustration is not your enemy. It is the clue. When awareness contracts, it says, I see through this. When awareness remains open, it says, this too. So it doesn't allow the story to come of that fixation, running, isolation, frustration, back into the center. Now take a deep breath out and collapse the spine and feel that space dropped. Consciousness before contraction does not try to escape the stage. It remembers it is both actor and the space. Breathing in, tongue roll up onto the upper palate energy, gazing onto the third eye. Now this is maturity. Not awakening as an exposure, awakening as an inclusion. Breathe out, anus lock, navel lock, throat lock. Take a deep breath in, elongate the spine, shoulders relax, just open. Neutrus. Now left leg stretching to the back, opening up the right hip, shoulders relax, chest open. Take a deep breath in, arms raised onto the ground, holding onto the opposite elbows, gentle arch. Now, what you're doing is your elongation is there, your armpits are open, your elbows are gently. So there's a subtle pressure, but not a force. Just for the flow to come in. Breath out, spread the wings wider and touch the floor. Chop the elbows, walk those palms. You are not here to leave the world. You're here to move through it without being pulled by the current. Because there's a tendency then where you tend to get against the flavors of the world so that you wanted to withdraw from the world. But here, I don't teach that. You're not here to leave the world. You're here to move through it without being pulled away by every current. Imagining standing in a river If you resist the water, you exhaust yourself. If you fall asleep, you are going to swept away. But if you remain aware and relaxed, you move with the current without drowning in it. So is the thoughts and emotion environment. So if you put that water into the thoughts and emotions, now that is the dance, that is the lila. High consciousness is not a curse. It's only partial consciousness feels like one. When clarity outruns love, the world looks harsh. When clarity is married to warmth, the world looks human. Stay with that. Take a deep breath in and very gently coming back. Palms onto the floor, shoulders roll back. Slightly there is extension, slightly there is no tightening. Observe the tightening. And very gently we'll come into a plank, strong on the pelvic floor. Now left knee onto the floor. Right arm reaching up to the ceiling. Clench and out clench. Right reaching into the back and touch the floor. Now palms are nice and flat and fingers are nicely stretched. There is no tension in this body whatsoever. It's a clue. Left arm reaching up to the ceiling. Into the back and touch the floor. Drop the knees and completely breathe out to a cat. Breathing in into a cow. Shoulders roll back and really allow that neck to lift up. Breathe out to the cat. Anus lock, navel lock, throat lock. Breathing in into a cow. Shoulders relax and chest open. Very gently coming into a neutral spine. And very gently give a good rotation to the hips. Wider rotation is important for the digestion. Observe the space, what you call liver, spleen, pancreas, kidneys, spine, so-called back of the hips, front of the hips, so-called back of the ribs, front of the ribs. Wider rotation to the other side. Take wider rotations. Feel the difference. Now stretch the hips into the front. Take a deep breath in. Shoulders roll back. Breathe out, stretch the spine back, knees wide apart. This is the version of you that sees everything that becomes isolated. And there is a deeper version that sees everything and soften to it. Consciousness before contraction chooses the second. It does not seek group validation, but it does not reject connection either. It participates lightly. It laughs more easily. It speaks less, but with precision. It enjoys the play, not because it believes it, but because it is no longer threatened by it. Now you see that part? I enjoy it no longer because I'm not threatened by it. If you're threatened by something, and you're constantly talking about it, then you need to gently come into that awareness. Let that land. The invitation is not to unsee. The invitation is to remain open after seeing. And that is the dance that cannot be taken from you, Lila. And that is where awareness becomes freedom instead of distance. Crawling and bringing the chest into the front. Breathing in into up face. Allow that breath to expand, perception sharpen, the fog lifts. Breathe out towards the down face. Now Gently lift up onto the toes, toes pointing to each other, bending the knees slightly and push the hips, push the back of the body, elongate the space of the neck, head. Now take a deep breath in and opening up the legs. You don't have to totally straighten the knees. Left foot into the front, into the pigeon pose. Shoulders relaxed, chest open. Arms raised onto the crown if you can have a balance and holding onto the opposite elbows. And very gently bring that into the back a little bit without tilting the head back, opening up the armpits. Take a couple of deep breaths. Breath out, spread the wings wider and touch the floor. Now you begin to see the mechanism behind everything, isn't it? So you see the persuasions, you see the identities are performing, you see the wounds behind this and that, you see patterns in friendships, relationships, family, colleagues, beneath all the conversation. Now, when you see this on the first stage of the awakening, it feels like clarity. But then it does not mean that it is distancing from all of that. And if the awareness is not held gently, what happens is at this stage, a lot of spiritual masquerading. This becomes a contraction. Now take a deep breath in, breath out. Drop the elbows, walk those palms. Now I want you to take a moment and pause yourself and feel that word contraction. Whether it's in the knuckles, whether it's in the fascia, whether it's on the contraction is what happens when expanded seeing collapse into a judgment. Or you become, I am a realized version than others, so there is a gentle, subtle superiority. In that same superiority, you don't roll your eyes when someone having a conversation that you're not interested. You have this subtle withdrawal from them. You tend to not to want to see them, or you tend to not participate in gatherings and conversations. So you have to very gently observe this. So you are no longer hypnotized by the drama, but you are no longer dancing either. This is a very, very, very fragile stage. These classes are not for everybody. These classes are people who actually embody and participate very gently. So their participation allows them to embody it. The consciousness before contraction is very different. It sees, but it doesn't harden. It recognizes people's mass. It also recognizes your own mass, but it also sees the tenderness under. Take a deep breath in and very gently coming back, shoulders relax and chest open. Into a plank, stronger on the pelvic floor. Right knee onto the floor, left arm reaching up to the ceiling. Into the back and touch the floor. Right arm reaching up to the ceiling, clench and unclench. Into the back and touch the floor. Drop the knees completely, breathe out to the cat. Breathing in into a cow. Breath out. Breath in. Neutral spine, rotate the hips, widen up, wider. So one rotation to the other side. Now, not because sometimes there are places that the media portrayed and bring those propagandas into light. But then you also see the subtle part of where it is not observed consciously, but just following it. It can have a massive level of distraction, because then you are performing from the fear. By the rotation to the other side, and take a deep breath in, push the hips forward, 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 shoulders roll back. Breath out deeply, getting the bum towards the heels and releasing the tension. Now, what happens when the consciousness is there? You can see all level of subtle manipulation, but it understand fear drives much of it. Now, this realization watches someone perform and feels the compassion for the part of them that always want that space to be longs for the belonging. Now take a couple of deep breaths here. Notice your body awareness without the body becomes cold. Awareness inside the body becomes wise. Now the topic was consciousness before contractions. Now this feels like a spacious participation. People might be thinking you're naive, but you're not. Cynical. You're lucid. Lucidity does not destroy the dance, the leela. It removes the compulsion. So you can enjoy now the movies and the dramas because you are not seeking validation from it. Because sometimes when you watch a team playing, you're almost participating because you're also seeking your own validation by them winning. So you can love a game, or you can love a movie, you can love a situation, but you're not demanding they be unmasked. You can sit at the family table without needing to fix the system. Because that understanding, that realization, it's way beyond fixing. Ask gently, am I seeing or am I tightening? If you're not seeing, and when you're not open to it, into that wise realization, you're tightening. But when the tightening happens, don't blame the tightening. It is a clue. When awareness contracts, it says, I see through this. When awareness remains open, it says, aha, this too. Consciousness before the contraction does not try to escape anything. Not even the stage, not even the drama, not even the health, not even the stage of finances, relationship. It remembers it is both actors and the space. This is gently coming into that maturity. Not awakening as exposure, awakening as inclusion. You're not here to always escape the world, isolate from it. You're here to move through it without being pulled by every current. Remember the river thing? Now take a deep breath in, crawling and bringing the chest into the front. Shoulders roll back, opening up the chest. Gentle up face. Gentle down face. Now take a deep breath in, left leg up into the back. Left foot into the front. Again, that right foot not going too much in the angle into the back, so it's actually following slightly towards the left foot. Arm stretching to the back, arms raised onto the ground. Now, palms onto the pranam position. Take a moment. Just take a gentle asana, the movement as a revelation. So asana is here not a posture to perform. It is the laboratory where contraction becomes visible. So invite yourself, feel the gravity before correcting the alignment of yourself. I'm asking you to notice, are there any subtle bracing against the ground? Are the toes gripping? Are the knees locked in protection? Is the abdomen slightly pulled inwards as if defending against impact? When you come into this realization, opening it onto the Virabhadrasana. Now we move into microtension. The tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth. The diaphragm slightly frozen, the back of the body not fully thrust in support. I ask you to soften 5% rather than collapse. This teaches the nervous system safety without disassociation. Gentle arch. Observe the movement, stretch, turns into that narrative. Gently coming back, elbow onto the knee. Right arm reaching up, stretches the sensation. Suffering begins when the identity say, I cannot handle this. So breathe directly into the hip, flexors, the jaw, the pelvic floor. Common storage sites for vigilance and survival memory. We are going to drop that. Right, reaching into the back, into the sacrum, touch the floor. Left arm reaching up, slow transition. Notice if speed is used to escape. Most of you doing too quickly. You're escaping the sensation. Movement without defense becomes free patterning. The body learns it can open without losing the coherence. Left reaching into the back, touch the floor. Drop both palms onto the right side. Lunge a little bit back and front and warm up. Warm up the hip flexors. Absolutely pushing into the back. And drop the elbows where you feel comfortable. So that was the asana. So I have done these classes many, many times in basic retreat and in retreats. So, but I'm going to remind him because some of you have asked for it. Now the pranayama is regulating the guardian. Now breath reveals control. So you can breathing into the 4, holding into the 4, breathing out to the 6. But then observe the psychological response. During the retention, watch for urgency in the throat, tightening in the solar plexus, subtle panic in the eyes. Observe. I'm gently going to explain. Retention stimulates the ancient reflex that equates the stillness with danger. This is not a spiritual failure, it is the memory, the evolved memory. I'm asking you to witness it without correcting it. Take a deep breath in, gently coming back into a gentle plank. Drop the knees and stretch the spine. As the exhalation lengthens, the vagus nerve pathway, the throat softening, the chest widening, belly expanding. I'm encouraging you, if necessary. The sigh reset the defensive circuitry. Now remove all the techniques that I told you and let the breath itself, the deepest insight arrives here when breath is not controlled. Does identity rush in to manage it now? This is very important in the pranayama sequence, regulating the guardian. This is not a class to just do some postures. So please do revisit this class. Now, asana is there, pranayama was there, now dharana. Meeting the point of armor. Dharana is a steady attention. So I'm inviting you to place the awareness in the sternum or navel, because these are common centers of identity contraction. Ask silently, what am I protecting right now? Not historically, right now. Notice micro bracing in the ribs, tightening behind the heart, subtle forward lean of someone preparing to defend. If emotions are rising in the dharana, feel the temperature, feel the density, movement, whether it's breath, body, stay pre-verbal, energy before explanation, dissolve faster than narrative therapy. See, I'm sharing these deeper healing techniques also with you. Palms facing down, crawling and bringing the chest into the front, breathing in into the up face. Breathe out towards the down face. Right foot into the front, arms stretching to the back, arms raised onto the ground, palms onto the namaskar positions. Now, asana, pranayama, dharana then becomes the dhyana. Dhyana is the awareness without the center. Dhyana begins when the effort softens. No more focusing, no more correcting. Just allow the sensations, thoughts, memories to rise as weather. So it's not escaping the weather. It's not planning to escape the weather. I want you to notice. The contraction appears within awareness, but does not awareness itself contract. Is awareness tight, or is it tightness appearing inside it? Pain, safe. When you come into this realization, opening up very subtly into the Virabhadrasana. This is a subtle distinction, is a liberation. When you recognize awareness as prior to the contraction, identification loosens naturally without the force. Take a mudra. Now you cannot be A or B or C or D or E or F or story anymore. The subtle distinction is liberation. Gentle arch, elbow onto the knee. Left arm reaching into the front, up to the ceiling. Take a deep breath in. Left reaching into the back and touch. Right reaching up to the ceiling, into the back and touch the floor. Now both palms are moved onto the left, lunge forward and backwards to warm up your hips, because asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, then we are coming into the samadhi, undefending being. Now, very gently, you can drop the elbows. And I want you to stay here for 3 to 5 minutes, resting in this open awareness. So samadhi here is not a mystical trance. It is the recognition that awareness remains whole, whether the contraction appears or disappears. So whether we are medicated or not, we are medicated for the symptoms. But when you are in that space of samadhi, here is not a mystical trance. It is a recognition that awareness remains whole, whether contraction appears or disappears. Now, I want you to drop the effort to maintain psychological shape for a moment. Let there be no management of self-image. You're not managing this image anymore. You are not trying to go and see people when you're feeling better or avoid people when you're not feeling, because there's no fixing of this posture. The breath, because there is no spiritual ambition here. Now I want you to observe, if the fear rises from your past, remind gently, the body may fear the dissolution, but the awareness does not dissolve. In this recognition, separation relaxes, not conceptually, muscularly. The jaw softens, the diaphragm deepens, the pelvic floor releases its vigilance. So hips are not tight anymore. Into a plank. Strong on the pelvic floor. Drop the knees and stretch the spine. Now I want you to spend this 3 to 5 minutes, this unity without the philosophy. A simple absence of contraction. Now, if your body is contracted, if it is in the past, the body is contracted if it is in the future, the body is contracted whether it's negative, body is still contracting whether it's positive. I just want a simple absence of contraction. This is the unity without the philosophy. Because in this recognition, separation relaxes, not conceptually, muscularly. Your jaw has softened, your diaphragm has deepened, your pelvic floor is released its vigilance. Because day and night, they are in that vigilance. So let go of all the idea of maintaining this psychological shape for a moment, and let there be no management of the self-image, no fixing of body, health, wealth, futures, past stories. There is no spiritual ambition here, no forgiveness, no this, no compassion, nothing. Samadhi is not a mystical trance. It is the recognition that awareness remains whole, whether the contraction appears or disappears. Now, very gently come into a child pose. Now I want you to very gently sit comfortably, no performance, waking up the spine one vertebra at a time. Let the spine rise naturally, let the body be supported. Notice something simple. Experience is already happening. Sound is arriving. Breath is moving. Sensation is present. There is awareness before we do anything spiritual. Even frustration is already being known. Now I want you to ask, bring the attention to the jaw. Is it gripping? Eyes, subtly bracing. Throat, protecting something unspoken. Because that's where that subtle cough comes. Chest armored, belly guarding, pelvis holding. Other hands are slightly clenched. This holding is older than today's problem. So find a place to sit. Before you explain your stress, there is contraction. Gently breathe into the most contracted area. Inhale gently towards it. Without forcing it to change. Observe this gentle posture, whatever you have taken, Sukhasana, Padmasana. Feel the gravity before the posture. Inhale, exhale. Can movement happens without identity performing it? You can do a gentle spinal wave, forward fold. Notice where you do not trust gravity. Now, when we were doing the postures before or even now, the sensation that the stretchers gave is not suffering. The mind narrates into suffering. So it's important that movement without the commentary. So a lot of us talk about the pain as a story. Now I want you to breathe without control, effort without identity. Now, if you inhale into 4 and hold into 4 and exhale into 6, just for experiment, notice during the hold, is there urgency? Now shift to inhale 4 and hold 4 and exhale into 8. Is the long exhale invite surrender or does something resist surrender? Now release all the techniques. Let the breath breathe itself. Watch if the mind interferes. And that's the asana, then the pranayama again. Dharana. Bring the attention to the sensation in the chest or the belly. Hold the attention steady and inquire, what am I protecting? Stay with the raw energy before the narrative forms. The body contracts to maintain a sense of me. Awareness does not contract. Now let's move into the dhyana, the awareness without the center. Let sensation comes and go. Let thoughts arise and dissolve. Contraction appears in awareness. Relaxation appears in awareness. Thoughts appears in awareness. Memories appears in awareness. Future projections appears in awareness. Is awareness contracting? Now the glimpse of samadhi, before contraction, before defense, before identity, before stories, past, there is a simple being. Let the body be undefended. If the story drops briefly, notice nothing collapses. You do not need to remove your story. Just recognize it is held in contraction. And contraction is held in awareness. Awareness does not need protection. Your identity needs protection. Your story needs protection. And now for people to go on deeper level of healing, identity is a muscular event. Separation is a somatic reflex. Uniting awareness and unity is what remains when contraction relaxes. Now, when we come into this realization, very gently, arms raised onto the ground, palms onto the namaskar position, that realization. Take a moment without the story. Let that land. The invitation is not to unsee. The invitation is to remain open after seeing. That is the dance that cannot be taken from you, the lila. I have done a little thing on the Instagram about this space. And that is where awareness becomes freedom instead of distance. In this realization into the namaskar and namaste.